Juice is a 1992 American crime drama film directed by Ernest R. Dickerson. With themes of friendship, loyalty, family connection, love, violence, revenge, and change, it tells the story of four black African American adolescent boys from Harlem, New York, who are in a gang together that rival another gang, a Puerto Rican gang led by a young man named Radames, another member of the Harlem neighborhood. The four black African American teenage members include Raheem, Q, Bishop, and Steele. The story unfolds as the four teenagers go from spending time together, making and dealing in money at the local arcade playing video games, to venturing off into the world, including at the local music store and local music scene, to eventually making the decision to rob the local bodega convenience store, to what turns out to be tragic and violent consequences. As the friendships grow stronger, then suddenly the encounters become more violent. The teenagers turn against one another, leading to a standoff at the end where there are only a couple of the group's survivors left. Money, material possessions, and a thrill for violence, with some sort of power or ownership over others, are ways that start to pervade some of the young minds and affecting those around them. Juice especially shows how a gun or pistol with a want for things such as alcohol can damage or destroy a community when it's inevitable that the hormones or juice of a young person or boy in this example are going to affect some of their decision making as growing changes are taking place in them. It shows how the actions of varied individuals can have a strong effect on the local and wider community. Looking into the character of Raheem, we meet a young man who enjoys his moments with his family and who enjoys being with this gang as they live life eating and drinking together, playing games in the arcade, making money and walking around together. However, when an argument and scuffle breaks out between Q and Bishop at Steele's home, then Raheem is the one who tries to mediate between the two and get them to squash the beef they have. Although Q and Bishop stop fighting from this moment, the tensions between both of them continue to grow stronger as they continue their journey together, venturing into crime. As all of the members in the group decide that visiting Q at the DJ set competition will make for a good substantial alibi, seeing they are planning to rob this local convenience store, we see that their plan doesn't go to what they had organised for at all, and violence and bloodshed ensues. Even though they hatch this plan with a potential alibi, they are eventually all brought in for questioning by the police, but are seemingly able to fool and mislead the officers on what actually happened. When Raheem ends up being shot and killed by Bishop when he tries to defuse the tension, once again between Bishop and Q, we see that whatever mediating ability he had apparently disappeared, with the tension in this instance being pointed at him, with the gun ending his life suddenly. Here we get to see the possessiveness someone can have over a gun, such as Bishop and his persistence in it being him who always holds this gun, even if it means violence on anyone else. The gun is being held similarly to how one might play a video game with the previous example, and having some sort of seemingly innocent passion to win and have some fun or control over others. Raheem's family do their best to go on with their lives, grieving and wondering what happened to the gunmen or men who killed Raheem, and wondering if they will ever see justice. Little do they realize that the very person who killed their son, Bishop, had even been invited to the funeral. And this also includes the witnesses or other friends, Q and Steele. Although they could have told the parents who had killed their son all along, they feel somewhat burdened with the seeming inability to speak out about it, seeing Bishop is leading them with a sense of intimidation constantly around them, trying to persuade them otherwise. This persuasion is often taking its toll on Q and Steele, with Bishop constantly threatening the two with violence if they felt they would try to turn him into the police for the murder or tell anyone. This shows some of the complications that can happen when there is much loyalty to someone who has done the wrong thing, or being persuaded by someone who's doing the wrong thing. However, although the murder of Raheem had mostly seemed to be a mystery, eventually his memory and the friendship and companionship that Q and Steele had with Raheem's family means that they, with Q especially, isn't able to go on pretending anymore and aims to fight himself out of this situation for himself, others in the community, and especially for his friendship previously to Raheem, a value which is also persuading his overall actions. This shows the complication of when someone is confronted by someone with a gun and harassed with one, how being able to match them, such as having a gun themselves, seems to be the only option to survive this circumstance. With this example, in analysing the character of Bishop, we see a young man who goes from enjoying the time he spends with his family to feeling somewhat at odds with the community around him, as they often find themselves being harassed by the police at the arcade and even the rival gang in the neighbourhood. When Bishop gets his hand on a gun, this appears to be the answer to all his problems. As Bishop tends to feel he is the leader of the group, seeing he feels he is often seemingly taking the heat from various people in the streets all the time. His attitude is constantly changing and becoming more threatening and violent as he first murders the store owner Fernando, supposedly teaching him a lesson when he wasn't obeying, and then going on to shooting and killing friend Raheem and later Radames, the gang member, and even shooting but just wounding this time friend Steele. After Bishop somewhat quietly shoots and kills gang member Radames after a confrontation where Bishop felt he was being singled out without the backup he felt he deserved, he then goes about trying to frame Q for the murder, as he mentions to Trip, the manager at the local pool hall, that Q has apparently gone crazy these days and is thinking of turning him in, to which Trip overall finds questionable. Bishop meets his end to the hands of Q as they try to go about confronting each other outside at night, which in turn turns to shots being fired at Q by Bishop, wounding him, and eventually with Bishop holding on to his dear life at the hands of Q, only to slip and fall to his death. Bishop's death was much to the shock and sometimes admiration of local bystanders, seeing Bishop by now in the community had become such an intimidating and violent character. Looking into the character of Q, we see a young, family-orientated teenager who's also inspired and motivated as he dreams of becoming a sought-after, community-celebrated DJ. As seen when he sees the advertisement on the street wall for the local DJ competition coming up. At the audition, he displays his talent, passing an audition, getting invited to perform the following Saturday night amongst other talented DJs. On the other hand, some DJs at the audition didn't seem to get through, apparently being difficult to communicate with to the interviewer, including one snatching his tape back from her when she questioned whether he had done much practice at all for this, such as this being a one-off opportunity he hadn't given much thought to or prepared for. When Q finds himself at odds with Bishop, seeing Bishop has a pistol which he is so proud to carry around with himself, he too goes out to use what cash he has to try to get a gun of his own. He is basically given a gun for free, seeing the lady who is dealing in weaponry, including guns, knows Q's mother, and this is something of a favour to her, saying it's apparently worth so much. After Bishop's death, when a bystander says to Q that now he's got the juice, he looks at the guy with disagreement as to say no, this is not what it's about, and he seemingly has no intention of being the leader or boss of the neighbourhood after this, even though there apparently seems that there is some credibility he could attain or claim as being someone who is dangerous, or someone that at least one person, a so-called leader, Bishop in this case, had died at the hands of. We were reminded of how Q wasn't too proud to see his younger brother admiring the ways of Bishop, of how he missed Bishop coming around because of how cool his little brother thought he was with the way he acted. That although Q is not necessarily taking the credit for Bishop's death, he didn't necessarily want anyone in the neighbourhood, including his younger brother, looking up to Bishop as someone they eventually might become like, seeing he was creating and taking somewhat of a passion for destroying others in the community at the hands of a gun. Money and the persuasion of money is a theme which constantly arises in Juice, whether it's Raheem offering his sister access to the bathroom for a fee, to Q's younger brother offering to trade him money in order to keep a secret, or even pool hall manager Trip asking for a fee to do Q a favour or passing on some information. The way this neighbourhood is run gives the sense that money is constantly persuading and influencing a lot of the decisions anyone or group of individuals are making. Money appears to be motivation to do anything, including getting out of bed in the morning or even helping out a so-called family member in some of the instances. Money seems to be an underlying reason that store owner Fernando was shot and killed in the convenience store, even though he's pleading to be let off free from the thieves. One of the moments we see that money is initially offered and then guided away is when Q is seeking to buy a gun with a small amount of money, and the lady gun owner seems to take pity on him and offers him the gun for nothing. The offering of the gun is done in a way that seems as if this reason stands out and is justified because it has to do with some sort of street revenge, or at least having some overall protection on a fellow related community member or members, such as Q's mother, and all the violence that is apparently surrounding them with the fact that their close family friend Raheem had been brutally shot and killed recently. Money is also an instance when the teenagers are stealing from the record store also. In Juice, we see how a young person in the community, such as this example in the Harlem neighborhood, can get pulled or persuaded into a bad or detrimental situation that can easily spiral out of control. That a young man for example, slowly growing up, drinking, having fun and coming of age, with the combination of hormones and an added access to a gun, can potentially turn a small argument or disagreement into a world of violence, paranoia, including an overall unsafe community, dragging various related people around them down with them also. That with hope, the right intentions, words, teachings, persuading, and actions toward a more positive attitude in life, especially away from a convenient gun during hormonal times, then there can be a whole lot of differences and an exceptional change for members of the wider community for the current time and in the future as well. I invite you to comment whether you agree or not, or if you have any different takes on this film or its various elements. Thanks for watching.